Okay, so welcome to DES 244. This is packaging, and unfortunately, we got a little bit of a late start on this, so we're actually in week two. You know this, and what I intend to do is tonight I'm going to start off by going over week one assignment because obviously you haven't had the opportunity to get the assignment in. Oh, and by the way, I just wanted to mention to you that since we had a late start for this course, I did grade your works incomplete, but you will be allowed to make that work up throughout the course as long as you get it done by the end of the week 4, and I will give you full credit for it. I will not deduct late for week 1. Now, I can't do the same for week 2, 3, and 4 because we are actually in week 2. But for week 1, if you are going to make up week 1, you will get a makeup on the elements of week 1, the discussion, the assessment, and the assignment, and you will not be deducting, or I will not be deducting any kind of a late penalty for that since we had a late start. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about week 1 assignment, which was to create a mood board. And what a mood board is all about, essentially, it's a way of looking at a project, coming up with some parameters for a project. Now, as a graphic designer, what we deal with visuals, but we also deal with type, copy that's utilized through type. We work with color, we work with texture, and we work with line, and of course we work with form. So some of the things that we're going to explore when we create a mood board are these things. We're going to set up a condition where we take a look at some potential colors we may use in our design. In other words, it's a preparation for our work. It's a way of taking a look at some elements that we have done some research on, which will help the client get kind of an idea as to where we are going with the design that we're going to create. And it's called a mood board. So we're going to be talking about color and type a little bit later on, and how we can deal with that. That's part of the assignment that we're going to be doing with our mood board. We'll also do a little bit of sketching. You also do a little bit of sketching, and this can be very rough sketching that you can scan and include in your submission. And you're going to actually write a very small amount of copy which will explain your visual thinking as it applies to the project that we're going to be working on. This course runs 4 weeks, obviously, and what happens is week after week after week it builds upon itself, and in the end you come up with a very nice package presentation that includes a design that you create based on the elements that you're supplied with, which is a very traditional kind of a project for a graphic designer to do. In the meantime, we're going to have a lot of fun and work with Adobe Illustrator and learn some really interesting stuff about this program, which is a very fascinating and very helpful program for all graphic designers should know. It's not a particularly difficult if it's explained and if you practice with it. And as I say, it's an enjoyable, fun kind of project, and it's a fun application to work with. I always find that when I'm working in Illustrator, most of the time I'm having a pretty good day because, as I say, Illustrator's, at least to me, very fun to work in. So we have 4 different packages that we can work with here. I'm sorry, not 4, 3. We have 3 different packages that we can work with here. Now, the important thing is that you understand you don't need to do all 3. You only need to pick one. You can either choose the Chateau Vineyard, the Wild Bill Gourmet Hot Sauce, or the Cool Breeze Perfume or Cologne. Well, believe it or not, I've actually done all 3 of these because I kind of choose which one I want to use as I teach this course, because I don't want to get bored by doing the same thing over and over again. What I've chosen to work on with you is the Wild Bill Gourmet Sauce, and then I might switch to Chateau Vineyards so that you can actually see me working on two different things. So I'm going to start off with Wild Bill Gourmet Hot Sauce, and I will switch over to Chateau Vineyards. So that's kind of how I'm going to head into this thing. You have information here right where you have your Chateau Vineyards. You download the Chateau Vineyards logo and box information. And by the way, this is probably, some of this you probably already know, because I believe you've already been through this course, and this is a redo of the course for you. So you probably know a little bit about what I'm talking about here, but I just want to make sure I cover this so that you're absolutely certain of this. And of course, you can download Wild Bill's Gourmet Hot Sauce logo and the box information at that link. And of course, if you choose Cool Breeze perfume, it's the same thing right there. The logo you download is an Adobe Illustrator file. It's in black and white. You'll be choosing a color scheme in this assignment and be using one or more of those colors in week 2 when you do your step 2 in the package design process. Now, there's a number of ways that you can go about generating color in Adobe Illustrator. You know, there's a couple of different palettes that you can use to generate color. And you can also go to Cooler Color Schemes, or Cooler Adobe Color, as it's called. And what I'm going to do is, in a little bit, I'm going to go into Cooler, and I'm going to show you how to go about grabbing some color that you can use in your assignment from Cooler. Okay, so again, do that shortly. Now, to create your mood board, what you're going to do is you're going to create an artboard, a file in Adobe Illustrator, which is 11 by 14, and you can either go portrait or landscape. I believe mine was landscape. And you need to include a number of design elements. You need to include a color palette. You need to indicate a little bit of typography. Now, the color palette obviously is the color palette that you're going to be using to create your packaging. You know, you're going to have a background, you're going to have secondary elements, you're going to have text, you're going to maybe have lines. All of these elements are going to, and you're going to also take a black and white logo, and you're going to turn that black and white logo into a color version of the logo. So all of these things are going to require you to have some kind of a color palette. And depending upon your assignment that you choose, Cool Breeze, Wild Bill's Hot Sauce, or the wine, you're going to have to choose a color scheme that would be appropriate for your design. As far as typography is concerned, on your computer you have a bunch of typefaces, but you also have Typekit. And you are free to download several fonts from Typekit if you choose to do that. Again, what you're going to be doing is, just like with your color, you're going to be choosing typography fonts that would work well with your package. Now, as far as shades, textures, and imagery goes, well, your basic imagery is going to be your logo. So what you need to do as far as imagery is concerned is you need to take a look at that imagery, and you need to decide what kind of supporting imagery you could use to support your logo and to support the idea of what your packaging is, whether it's a wine bottle package, or whether it's a package for hot sauce, or whether it's a box package for cologne. You're going to have to come up with some graphics or imagery. I'm calling them graphics, but imagery that will work with that. And I have for you a link where you can go and get some free online imagery. This is royalty free that you can use free. And feel free to go there and get some imagery from there. That's where I often go, is to a royalty-free image source online. And I have a bunch of them that I've collected over the years. And I, go and check them out whenever I have to create something and I don't have money to work with, which is not all the time. Usually I have money from the people that I work with, but there are occasions where you're not going to have money. And this case is a good example of that. So then the other thing is texture and shapes. So basically, are you going to employ shapes in some measure? You're going to look into that. Texture. You may or may not end up using texture, but what you should really be thinking about is the potential for using texture. You're going to find that when you go looking for imagery, you'll probably be able to locate textures as well as imagery. So like, say for instance, if you're doing something for wine, you're going to see that there's a bunch of pictures that you can find that refer to wine. And you're going to be able to find textures that would probably work too if you want to use them in backgrounds in some way. Or, for instance, cool breeze. If you wanted, to do something with cologne, I'm sure you can find textures that would be just perfect for a perfume cologne box. Same thing with the hot sauce. If you look, you could probably find textures. And in a minute, I'm going to take you into Adobe Illustrator, and I'm going to show you my mood board and how I've organized my mood board. And again, the whole point of this is, even if you don't use this stuff, and there's no saying that just because you put something into a mood board, you're going to necessarily use it. What a mood board helps to do is it helps to establish an overall theme, an overall direction. It gives the person that you're working on a chance to sort of begin to see your thinking, where you're going with this potentially, and decide whether they like the direction that you're going in before you actually go to the trouble of building anything, creating graphics for a box. Okay, so that's what this mood board thing is all about. And it's a very common thing that people do with design work. It's done with logos, usually when somebody's creating a logo. Packaging, you'll find that very often a mood board is done for packaging. A whole lot of different applications for a mood board. So again, that's that part of this week's assignment. The other part of the assignment is that we are asking to submit a 50-word document. Now, what this document does is it gives you the opportunity to explain a little bit about your thinking. Why did you make the choices that you made? Why were the colors picked? What were you thinking when you chose the texture? What would the texture mean in the context of your design? Why are you using that particular imagery? You chose some typography. Why did you think that typography was appropriate? Again, we're really not looking for a lot here. We're looking for like 50 words, approximately 50 words. And basically, just so that what you're doing is you're supporting your mood board with some thinking that the person who's going to be evaluating this, in this case, me, but in the real world, it wouldn't necessarily be me. It would be a client. You're giving them as much information as you possibly can, so that they feel they get a feeling for where you want to head with your overall design. Now, you're going to save this as a PDF. What you're going to do is you're going to create a multi-page PDF, which will contain, if you take a look at your submission requirements right here, a multi-page PDF document that has both the mood board and the 50-word write-up. With the write-up first and the mood board second. So basically, you're going to set this up so that you have your mood board after your write-up. And of course, from past experience, you use your name and then the file DES assignment 1 first and last, and then submit the PDF for grading. So you're going to ultimately submit a multi-page PDF document with it properly titled. Really, that's pretty much it. I mean, I believe you've been through this before, so it shouldn't be a complete shock to you. You've probably done this to some degree. I don't know how well you did it. I will hopefully get a chance to look at that, and I hope this is clear enough for you. So with that being said, I'm going to quickly jump into Adobe Illustrator, and here is my mood board. And what I want to do is I just want to talk a little bit about all the things that I put on my mood board. If you take a look in the top left area, you'll see where I have Wild Bill Gourmet Hot Sauce. Spicy, sweet, and highly addictive Wild Bill's Gourmet Hot Sauce was recently named the best tasting hot sauce in the market. Now, I literally picked that up, if I'm not mistaken. Let me go back to week 1 here, and let me go back up to Wild Bill's. Yeah, Wild Bill's was, yeah, so you see it's recently named the best hot sauce in the market ahead of its competitors, Chula Hot Sauce and Tabasco. Okay, so I literally just picked that copy up and I just put that copy in there, okay? I then went into my colors and I developed a color scheme, and I found this range of colors right here, okay? Which is a nice spread of colors. Now, you know, to be honest with you, you just don't have to have that many colors. I mean, you literally could have 3 colors, okay? You don't have to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You don't have to have 6 colors plus black and white, okay? I chose 6 colors plus black and white, but you can have any number of colors that you want here, okay? So you're going to include samples of your colors, just the way I did right here. Then what I did was I took the logo, which I was given, we're given that right from the beginning, and what I did was I actually colored my logo instead of producing a black and white logo to show I'm going to use the color. But a black and white logo at this early stage would be fine. I don't have a problem with you doing that because really we're not coloring it to week 2. I colored mine. Just to give you an idea how that coloring is going to work. So I have my logo, and then beneath that I have a series of fonts, and let's see if they're still active fonts. They are. So if I go to my character panel, let me open up my character panel. Actually, let me go to Window, let's go to Type, and let's go to Character, and let me bring my character panel actually out here. And I can now select Wild Bill. And what I chose for Wild Bill's, one of the font that I chose was Poplar Standard Black, okay? And let's see if they have variations. They have no variations on this, so there's only black. So this is the kind of thing that you would use this maybe for a title only. You're not going to use this for body copy because it's too bold to be body copy. But I thought Wild Bill's in Poplar Standard Black had kind of a westerny feel to it. So, you know, again, I use that font as a potential font that I would pick. The other font that I chose right here is Gill Sans MT Extra Bold Condensed. Now, Gill Sans has only regular. Again, this is only regular, so this would be a title font as well. It wouldn't be a font that I would normally use for body copy. The next one I have is Wild Bill's down here, which is Rockwell Condensed Regular. Now this comes in regular and bold, and I didn't like the bold, and I actually thought the regular looked a little bit more westerny, so I chose the regular over the bold. Okay, so again, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to pick fonts that would be good to support the idea of Wild Bill's Gourmet Hot Sauce. And I'm looking for fonts that visually, to me, suggest a Western look and a Western feel. Okay, and I felt out of the fonts that I had access to that these did. Now, the next one that I have over here, I believe this one came from Typekit. This is Mesquite Standard Medium, and I think this comes in, again, just medium. So this would probably be like a headline font or a title font. This would not be body copy. And then finally, I think this is one that came off of my computer, which is Algerian. okay, and I don't know what again, regular. So this would be a headline kind of font. So there are my fonts. I chose those particular fonts. You can choose more or you can choose less. The whole idea here is that we're trying to develop a flavor, an overall feeling, an overall visual idea of some of the potential things that you know, we're looking to do. Now, they talked about chola and Tabasco. So what I did was I went online. The first thing I did was I went online and I tried to locate the chola product, and I tried to locate the Tabasco product. So I was able to locate them, and I grabbed a visual, a graphic from online, and I included those two in here so that we could use those as a reference. All of the symbols that I have in here, this is all reference material, just so that I had some idea of where I'm going to go. Now, Wild Bill, his Hickok is based on Wild Bill, in my opinion. So Wild Bill was a sheriff. So what I did was I went out and I found a sheriff symbol. And after I got done with that, I thought, you know, I really can't use the sheriff symbol. But what I could do is I could maybe use that sheriff symbol as a graphic. Let me get this thing up like this. There we go. Oops. There we go. And let me make this board a little bit bigger so that you can see my little graphic out here. What I thought I would do, and I'm going to put this back in here. There we go. And close it. All right. What I thought was this is a little bit too much. But what I thought I could do maybe is I thought maybe I could just use this thing as a graphic. So I actually created this graphic. I created this graphic in Adobe Illustrator, and really all I did was I took this. I'm holding down the Alt key and I'm dragging a duplicate over to here. And then I'm going to grab this and I'll hold the Alt key again and I'll drag a duplicate over to here. Okay? Drag this one down to here, holding the Alt key to drag a duplicate down to here. If I can get it positioned right. That's probably pretty good. And then hold the Alt key and drag it over to here again. And this is the final one. I can just drag it right over to here. And there I have my little star, and I probably have to adjust these a little tiny bit, you know, and get them perfect. I'm not going to bother doing that, but I'm trying to get a general idea. So there is my graphic based on this graphic right here. Now, I could incorporate this graphic into my design, but this is made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different pieces. All right. What I want to do is I want to turn it into one piece of graphic art. So I select the whole thing and I go to the window menu and I go to Pathfinder. Okay. And by using the Pathfinder, now there's also a Pathfinder tool or a shape builder tool. I could do this with the shape builder tool, but this is pretty quick. I'm just going to make sure that they're all selected and I click on Unite. And now I have one piece that sheriff's badge is one continuous piece. Okay, so that's basically what I decided to do. Maybe I could use this graphic in a way, whereas this graphic just didn't make much sense to me. But let me go zoom out again, and we'll go back into this. Zoom out again. There we go. Let me move it over here. Let me go view fit artboard and window. There we go. All right. And let's minimize that. There we go. Move this out of the way. So basically, I went out, I found the chola, and I found the Tabasco. And in the process, I took the look to see what else was out there because I wanted some ideas. Now, the logo is supplied to you. So the logo looks like this. So you're actually going to be working with this logo. But you still wanted to get an idea of the kind of graphics that are out there. So, you know, I found another image that shows the actual chola being applied to a graphic of the bottles of hot sauce. I found another version of the McElhaney Tabasco. I also found Texas Pete. And the reason I grabbed that is because even though Texas Pete is vastly different than Wild Bill, you can see it's kind of heading in the same direction. And I think it's just helpful to have these graphics so that you get a sense of what's going on here. And then I also found this other one, which I honestly, to be honest with you, I can't read it. It's so small, and it was a while since I got it. Cajun Pepper Shack. There you go. Cajun Pepper Shack hot sauce. Now, of course, Cajun Pepper Shack, there's alligators, crocodiles, whatever, alligators down in Cajun country. So then in this particular case, their mascot is this alligator, okay? But we're using Texas Pete. So let's go view, fit artboard and window. And then let me zoom in on this. Then I found this picture, and I'm not all that interested in what's going on in the middle of this. But what I kind of liked about this was this background pattern. And I thought to myself, you know, it's very, very Mexican, Tex-Mex kind of pattern. And I thought, great image to include into this, just to show some thinking, because we're talking about color and textures. And I thought that this was a very nice representation of colors, similar to the color scheme that I have up here. Now, of course, I don't have a purple in there, but the other colors are very similar to the feel of the colors that I have right there. Now, the last thing that I did was I went and I looked for some textures. Now, in the end, I really didn't use any of these textures, but I thought to myself they would be a really good thing to include in the mix here, because obviously these textures also suit the theme of this whole thing. You know, what kind of textures could you imagine potentially using in some way in your design? And I went in and I found these textures and I included them to show the kind of textures, so that when I go view, fit, artboard, and window, you can see from my mood board there's a lot of visual stimulus there that your customer will be able to incorporate into their thinking and have a discussion with you about. You know what I mean? You look at all this and say, this is where I'm going with this. This is the kind of things that I envision seeing. You know, do you agree with my colors, for instance? Do you agree with my type usage here? Are my textures, should I choose to use them, do they make sense to you? So here is the Chola and the Tabasco. There's our customer. There's the people or not our customer, but there's our competition. That's what they look like. You know, I'm thinking based on what they're doing, I'm thinking on something like this, and then I show them my logo and how I've rendered my logo. Do they like that approach? You know, I showed the sheriff badge. I know that Wild Bill Hickok was a sheriff at one point. I thought, you know, this is a great sheriff shape. I thought, can't use it because it's, you know, it's not really appropriate, but I thought a flat visual of a sheriff badge could potentially work, so that's why I included it. All right, so there is my mood board, and you can see why I chose the elements that I chose. The bottom line is I'm thinking in terms of the visuals that are required. I'm thinking about type. I'm thinking about graphics. I'm thinking about graphics. I'm also thinking about the competitors, Chola and Tabasco. I'm thinking about texture. What potential texture might we use? Of course, the color scheme that I might be using. All right, so that's why these elements are there. They're there because they're what I'm being asked to consider in the process of creating my mood board. All right, so that's what you're going to do. You're going to create a mood board very much like what I did right here. Now, the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to come into Microsoft Word, and you're going to create for your mood board assignment, I think that's probably 2 words. There we go. Mood board assignment 1, DES-244, packaging design, instructor Bill Sweeney. I wrote, for my assignment, I chose Wild Bill's Gourmet Hot Sauce. It is my opinion that Western theme elements and style featuring the image of Wild Bill branding should be both fun and interesting angle. What Wild, I left out a letter here, let me fix that, W-I-L-D, Wild Bill Hickok was originally a well-known personage from the Western frontier in the mid-late 1800s. Okay, so even though this isn't necessarily Wild Bill, this is very loosely based on Wild Bill. All right. I also considered symbolism in indicating law enforcement, as Hickok was one time a deputy U.S. Marshal in Kansas. So again, why did I have that star there? Because he was at one time a marshal in Kansas. I chose frontier styling both in my textures and type styles to go together with Hickok and his Western reference. The colors I chose were a fairly standard palette of colors appropriate for the product type. Now, I'm going to talk more about the color in a moment, but what I want to do is I just want to come down here and I want to point out that I have a total of 116 words. That's how many words I chose to create. So you can see you're being asked to do 50. That's what they're asking you to do. I did a very little bit here, and I come up with 116 words. So it really shouldn't be difficult to come up with 50 words to describe why you did what you did. All right. So now the next thing I'm going to do is, after I got this done, we go to the let's go to the review and let me check spelling and grammar. It's okay. For my assignment, I chose Wild Bill Gourmet Hot Sauce. It is my opinion that a Western theme, that Western themed, T-H-E-M-E-D, Western themed, oops, hold on, E-D, there we go, elements and style that features the image of Wild Bill branding would be both a fun and interesting angle. Okay, so that's a little bit better. So I just fixed a couple of little things. When I wrote this, I wrote it pretty quickly. So I just basically cleaned it up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is, to finish this thing, to finish this project, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go File, and I'm going to go Save As, and I'm going to Browse, and I'm going to go to my desktop. All right, go to my desktop, and I'm looking for my folder, which is week 1, okay? And it's my 50-word document, and I'm going to save it as a PDF, and I'm going to hit Save. So now what I've done is there it is. I've saved my PDF of this part of the assignment. So this part of the assignment is essentially done. I've saved it as a PDF. I've shown you how to do it. I've shown you how to go into Microsoft Word and produce it and check it, and even know what you have as far as your word count is concerned. So I'll shut this now, and that part of the assignment is done. I'll hit Save. Okay. Now, I'm going to go to my colors here, okay, and I want to show you something. Right now, I got a ton of colors in here. I have a whole lot of colors. Now, I don't use all of these colors, and I don't want all of these colors. So what I want to do is I just want to keep the colors that I've used. Now, if I click on each one of these colors, okay, you can see that I don't have that color in here. Let me open it up. I don't have that color in here. I don't have that color in here. How do I know that? Because the color doesn't highlight. Watch when I click on yellow. It doesn't show up. So none of these colors are in here. See? None of them are in here. None of them are in here. Okay? So what I want to do first is I want to put all these colors into here. So what I want to do is I want to get rid of all these colors because I don't need any of these colors. I'm not using any of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to here, and I'm going to go down to where it says Select All Unused. And all these colors select because they're not being used. And I'm going to hit the garbage can, and I'm going to delete the swatches, and they're all gone. Now, I got a couple of stragglers here. I got that, which I don't need, and I'm going to delete that, yes. And that I don't need. I'm going to delete that, yes. And I got two colors here, which are they're blacks, but there are too many of them, so I'm going to delete that. Now what I'm left with is I'm left with none, registration, white, and black. Okay? Now what I want to do is I want to load my colors into my swatches panel. Now if I wanted to, and I'm going to do this next, I could go into Cooler and I could bring in colors from Cooler. I'm going to do that next. But right now I've created these colors, okay? And I've either created these colors by going Window Color, and I've gone in here and I've mixed the color, all right, by using this method here, by just dragging the color around until I get the color that I want, all right, which I'm not going to do because I've already done it. Or I've come in here and I've double-clicked on this, and I've dragged the color around to get my color. See how I'm dragging it down to get that dark color? Okay, and if I want a green color, I bring it up to green, and then I drag this thing down and try to get that green color right there, maybe bring it over like that to try to get that green color right there. And there we go. See, I'm somewhat in that green color right there. I've done all this already, so I'm going to cancel this. I'm just trying to give you some ideas as to how I approach getting these colors. But what I want to do is I want to load these colors in here. So with the fill selected, I'm going to start off by clicking that color. It loads it right into the fill. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to just go New Swatch. And it's going to give me that swatch right there, okay? And right now it's giving it to me as RGB. We're going to worry about this. It's right now the color type is set to process color, but it's set to RGB. I'm going to leave this alone for the time being, but later on in the assignment or in the course, I'm going to show you how to convert this to CMYK. So I'm going to hit OK, and now there's that color. I'm going to do the same thing with this color. Click on it. Now again, I selected all those colors the way I showed you how to do it, and I'm going to come in here and click New Swatch. And I'm going to leave this alone basically. I'm going to hit OK. And now I got that in there. I'm going to go to the yellow. I'm going to load the swatch, New Swatch, and hit OK. And I got that in there. I'm just going to keep going until I get all my colors in there. New Swatch, OK. And then the red, New Swatch, and hit OK. And there's my green, New Swatch, and hit OK. I don't have to do the white and the black because I already got the white and black. But now, instead of having all those colors in there, I have my library of colors that I'm going to be using to create my logo. The reason that this is important is because the next step that we're going to be doing in week 2 is we're going to be coloring our logo. And in order to color our logo, we're going to have to come in here and we're going to have to use our, let's see, where is it? It's the Live Paint Bucket tool. We're going to be using the Live Paint Bucket tool. Okay, so we need to have the colors loaded in here in order to use the Live Paint Bucket tool to fix the colors in our logo. Okay, so just keep that in mind. We need the Live Paint Bucket tool, which is located behind the Shape Builder tool. Okay. And we need to have our colors loaded in here, and we're going to end up working. See how it's already starting to set up to work? See how it's already setting up to work? But anyway, we're going to be getting to that shortly. So that's what we want to do. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go File, Save As, and I'm going to call this Mood Board, and I'm going to save it as a PDF, and I'm going to bring it to my desktop. And I'm going to go into week 1, which is a folder I created to house all the stuff that I do tonight and tomorrow night. And I'm hit save. So now I'm basically done with this. Here, this comes up. Illustrator default is perfectly fine. Hit save PDF. And now it's saving the PDF. And you'll see here in a minute, this is no longer the AI. This is the PDF. The PDF, it'll convert it to a PDF. You'll see in a second. Let it finish its work. Come on. There. Okay. Now, you see how it's one mood board PDF? So there you go. All right? So there's your PDF. Now, I am going to close this because I'm done with it. All right? And we're going to be moving on in a minute to our die line, all right, and our logo. So we're going to be working on them tonight and tomorrow night. We're going to finish these things up, but we're not quite done yet. I'm going to switch over to Adobe Acrobat Pro. Now, what I want to do is I want to take my two files, the two PDFs that I created. I created the mood board PDF, and I created that PDF from my copy. And what I want to do is I want to combine them into one PDF that you can submit for the course, okay? And I want to show you how to do that. Again, I don't know how much of this you know, so I kind of want to cover as much of it as I can. Oh, you know what? There is one thing that I'll show it to you in a minute. I was going to say I did forget to show you Adobe Cooler, but I'll show you that in a minute. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to Tools. All right, we're going to go to Tools first. All right, and we're going to go Create PDF. So here's what I'm doing. I'm going to create a PDF from those two separate files. This is what you're going to submit to me. It's going to be your mood board, and it's going to be that 50-word copy that is part of the assignment. All right, so create PDF, and from multiple files, and make sure that combined files is the one that's highlighted. And you're going to go Next. All right, now you get the Add Files dialog box. There's two ways that you could do this. You could click here, and you could browse, and I could go to my desktop, and I could go down to my week 1, and then I could grab these two files and drag them in, or I could go to week 1, and I could move it over to here, and I could take my mood board, and I could click and drag my mood board in, and then go back to week 1 and come over here and grab my 50-word document and drag it in. Okay? That's your second way of doing it. And of course, this is the folder. This is the week 1 folder. It's just open. That's all. All right? It's just the same folder open up, and there are my two documents. So now I have my mood board in here, and I have my 50-word document in here. But it's very important that you remember the assignment tells you that they want you to have the 50-word document first and the mood board second. So if you take a look at the way I got it, I have my mood board first and my words second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the mood board, and I'm going to just drag it here. And now I have my copy, my 50-word document first, and I have my mood board second. So there's your submission. Now all you have to do is click on Combine, and it's going to combine them. And now look, watch when I open up the pages. There it is. There's your first page. The mood board assignment 1 is right there. And there's your second page. You're going to go down, and your second page is right there. Okay? So there is your submission for week 1. The mood board and the 50-word piece. I'm going to go File, Save As. And what you're going to do is you're going to save this as a PDF. I'm going to go to week 1, okay? And I'm going to rename this thing. And remember now, you got to name this. So it's DES-244 assignment 1 Bill Sweeney. Okay? And then I'm going to hit Save, and it's saving it. Saving the file. And now if I go to week 1, you'll see DES-244 assignment 1 Bill Sweeney. There is your PDF submission. And if I click on this PDF submission, it'll open up, and you'll see the 2 pages right there. And right there. There's your page 2. There's your page 1. So there you go. That is the mood board and the 50 words for that part of the assignment for week 1. Okay? I hope that's clear enough, and if it's not, you can always contact me and I'll help you. I'm in Blackboard. I gave you my hours on that. So now I'm going to bring this up here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the die line. Let's do this first. The die line comes first. Okay, so what I want to do is, let me go to die line. This is my actual finished package. I told you what I was going to do is I was going to start off by working on Wild Bill, the bottle, hot sauce. And then I said I was going to jump into the wine packaging. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because the wine packaging is a little bit more complicated, and I thought it would be a better idea to do the most complicated package for you in case you decide to do the package for the more complicated one, which would be the wine bottle. So that's the only reason why I did it this way. Otherwise, I would have just continued along the same line with the other one. All right. So this is what the entire project looks like at the end. All right. And I just wanted to show you this real quickly. Let's go to my layers panel, and you can see how I set this thing up. Basically, I have a layer here called a guide layer, which I'm not going to show you. I have a box layer, which I'm not going to show you. I have a die line layer, and the die line is that red line. If I hide that, you'll see that the die line, well, actually, there seems to be 2 of them. Oh, there it is, the bleed line. There's the bleed line. Okay, so I hid the bleed line. There's the bleed line. See, the red is the bleed. I'm going to explain all this to you in a minute. So hide the bleed line. There's also a fold line, which you can barely see. Okay, and I just hid it. Then there's the graphics. So the graphics are now hidden. And then there's the background, okay? And of course, there's your die. Okay, so the background is there. Hide the background, and there's your die. There's your basic package, okay? Your basic box. And what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to begin the process of building this box for you. And I will probably finish this off tomorrow night. This is a lot of steps, and I don't want to rush it, so I'll do as much of it as I can tonight, and then I'm going to just stop and save whatever I have, and we'll move on and finish it tomorrow night, okay? Now, one of the things that I did is if you take a look over here, you're given box instructions. These are your box instructions, or actually specifications. Not instructions, but specifications. So the specifications are A, B, C, D, E, and F. And if you take a look at this, they've even given you these call-outs, so you know where C is, you'll know where B is, you'll know where D is, you'll know where F is, you'll know where A is, okay? So, and of course, here are your measurements, the wine box specifications. You're gonna be doing front, sides, and back panels. All 4 of those panels are 4 inches by 12.4 inches tall. So the width is 4 inches, the height is 12.4 inches tall. The top panel is a 4x4. The top tuck panel is 4x1. The top side panels are 4x1.5. The glue flap is 1.25 by 12.4. The bottom panel, again, is a 4x4. And then you've got some cutouts down here, which is what makes this thing a little bit tricky and is why I'm showing this one as opposed to the other one, which is the hot sauce bottle. The hot sauce bottle is a lot plainer. And if you see how I do this box, if you're doing the hot sauce box, you'll have a lot less trouble because you don't have to do the special cutouts at the bottom. But I just wanted to do them so that you basically see how they get done. Now, there are 3 very important elements here that we have to deal with. This is what makes this so critical. The bleed, the trim or die line, and the folds. The bleed they don't even show in here. I'm going to go back to my design, and can you see that red line right there? That line is actually pointing to that area there, which is that red line, which represents the bleed. I'm going to hide the bleed. Here's the folds. There are the folds, okay? There are the folds. See those dotted lines? There are my dotted lines. They are the folds, okay? And then, of course, the die line, watch when I hide the die line. There's the die line. Now, what is a die line? The die line is actually the element that they use to cut the finished box out of the background piece of paper before it gets folded into the final box. Now, in the end, you don't really see the die line because it doesn't get printed. It's used as it's a die. It's like a cookie cutter. It cuts the box out, and then what happens is you never see the bleeds, because the bleeds are used to bring your artwork out to, so that your bleed, the colors or whatever the images or whatever, bleeds off the page cleanly. That's basically what a bleed is for. And the folds, you don't see the folds either, because the folds are mechanisms that are used for the printer to figure out how to score the box so that the box can be finally folded together and glued and turned into a regular box. So those are your elements, okay? And again, it's just telling you down here, please use the box specifications above right here. Very important that you understand that these are the specifications, and that's what we're going to build to. I'm going to build this tonight. I'm going to work on it tonight so that you can see how this is done. I doubt very much I'll get it all done, and if I do get it all done, I'll still have to work on the logo tomorrow night, and I'll have to work on putting together a rough layout, because it's all part of what you have to do. So please use the box specifications above. Drawings are not to scale. These are not to scale. Don't just try to copy these, because they're not to scale. You have to build the box. This is a diagram that you're going to use to help you visualize what you're doing. I am going to build this for you so that you can see how it gets done. And I'm going to take my time, and I'm going to do it slowly, and I'll try to explain it as best I can so that you can see what's going on. They are to be used as guides to shape to shape the flaps and angles used. Okay? All right, so I'm going to go to my die start, and I want to point out that I'm going to hide the box layer here. I have recreated the layers. So I have a fold layer. There's nothing on the fold layer because I haven't created anything yet. I have a bleed layer. There's nothing on the bleed layer because I haven't created anything yet. I have graphics, but I haven't applied any graphics yet, so that's also a blank layer. I have a background layer, but there's nothing on the background layer because, again, I haven't started building yet. I have a die layer. I have a box layer, and the only reason I got the box layer is so that you could see what I'm building, okay? I'm actually going to build this right now with you, all right? And then, of course, I got some guides. If I choose to use guides, I put them on that layer. So I've hidden the box layer because I'm going to start building my layout. And actually, I'll show you this. I'll show you this real quickly, and we'll start by having this out there so that you can see how I get started with this. But I'm going to quickly shut this thing off, all right? Because I'm not going to use this. I'm only going to use this as a reference point to start out. Okay, so what I want to do is you want to create these layers, and you create the layers right here. You just click to create a new layer, and then you just rename them. I think it's probably a good idea to call it Fold, Bleed, Graphics, Background, Die, Guide, and then the sample. If you want to put the sample here, you can put the sample here. And by the way, just so that you know, what I did was I took my sample and I put my sample on an 8.5 by 11 page, saved it as a PDF, and I went over to Kinko's and I printed mine. So I actually, you can hear me shaking it. I actually have this in my hand printed out so I could sit it next to me, and it makes it a heck of a lot easier for me to read the specifications by having it sitting next to me than it does for me to constantly keep going back to this, okay? So I'm not going to be going back to this because I've got it printed out and I have it sitting next to me. So it's very important that you understand that. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock the folds layer. I'm going to lock the bleeds layer. the graphics layer, the background layer. I'm going to lock the guides layer and the samples layer. The only layer that I have available is the die layer, and I'm going to select that die layer. Now, the reason I want to select that die layer is because if I click on the background layer, I can't do anything on that layer. Okay? I can't really, it's locked. So I'm going to select the die layer. And what I'm going to do is, I want to make sure, before I even begin, I want to make sure that I have a black stroke on my, I have a black on my stroke. I want to make sure that I have nothing on my white, or nothing on my fill. So I've taken my fill and I've made it no fill, none, and I make this black right here. And I'm going to start off with, oh, I don't know, like let's maybe say, you know what, I'll go with 1 point, a 1 point solid stroke, okay? And I'm going to hide this because I don't need it anymore. Move this over to here. And my swatches, I don't have any color in my swatches yet, which is okay. I'm just going to put that over here for now. So all I'm concerned about is my die layer. I don't want to fill, none. And I want a black stroke, and I want a 1 point stroke with black. All right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to select the rectangle tool. And then I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to click. And what I get is the rectangle dialog box. Now, the reason that I'm using the rectangle dialog box instead of just clicking and dragging a rectangle is because I have measurements. I got these measurements here, okay? And I want to make sure that every time I create a shape, the shape is created to the proper measurements. That's why having access to this is very important when you do this, because you want to be able to make sure that your shapes come out the proper size. Now, this is also set to inches. You want to make sure that this is set to inches. So I'm going to start off by the back panel. Now, there's something else I should explain to you. That's the top, and that's the bottom. So the way that this should work is this should open up to the back, and this should open up to the back. So that would mean that the first panel that you have here is a back panel. That would have to mean that this is a side panel. That would mean that this is the front panel, because it's the exact opposite of the back panel. So this is your side panel, your front panel, and your back panel. I'm explaining this to you because you need to know these things. You need to understand these things. So all subtle little things that you need to know about. And again, the reason that this is a back panel is because the box opens to the back. It doesn't open to the front. It opens to the back. And the front would be on the opposite side of it, which would make that right here. Okay? All right, so let's start off by creating our back panel first. The back panel and the side panel and the front panel are all going to be the same size. If you read your specification, front size back panel are 4 inches wide by 12.4 inches tall. All right, so the width is going to be 4 inches, just like that. Now, the height is going to be 12, right? 0.4. So it's a width of 4, a height of 12.4. It's going to have no fill. It's going to have a black stroke and a 1 point stroke. I'm going to hit OK. And there is my first panel. And I'm going to click this panel, and I'm going to bring that panel right to there. Okay? And I'll just move it over one time right there. Now I'm going to hide my box, and there is my first panel. That's the back panel. Now, I could go in and I could do the same process again, but there's an easier way to do this. I'm going to select this thing. I'm going to go Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste in Place, and then I'm going to hold the Shift key down, and I'm going to right arrow this over until I hit that other line. So I'm holding the shift key down and I'm right arrowing it over until I hit that line right there. Okay? Now it's actually over just one, so I'm going to hit it one more time. That is, well, actually, let me zoom in here so I can see how, yeah, see, it's over just a tiny bit too much. So I'm going to click it again and move it over to, that's probably good right there. Okay? So now what remember, I'm on my die layer. See? I'm on my die layer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of these guys. And I'm going to go Edit Copy, Edit, Paste in Place. And now hold the Shift key down. And I'm going to walk them both over. I'm trying to very quickly create my panels. Keep going until I get close to that line, like this, and then I'm going to walk it over kind of slowly. And I'm almost there. I think I'm there. Let me just deselect it and see. Yep, that's pretty good. Now, I want a tiny, 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 tiny bit of overlap here, okay? Just a little bit of overlap. Now, I might have too much, so I'm going to click on it one time. Yeah, I think that's a little bit better. One time, there we go. That's probably good. Yep. And then this last one here, there. Okay, so now I have my back, my side, my front, and my other side. Let's go to the View menu, and let's fit our board and window, and let's take a look at what we got so far. Okay, so I hope that you find this part of it easy. Okay, and really, if you take this thing slowly and methodically and read the instructions, and again, I strongly recommend that you take the instructions, which are these right here. And if you take these instructions and if you copy them into a Illustrator file, set the page up to 8.5 by 11 and make it fit as best it can, undistorted on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, save it as a PDF, take it to a Kinko's, print it out, you will have your instructions in front of you. You'll find it's going to be so much easier for you to do this. That's what I did, and it makes it real easy. Okay, so all four of these panels now are on the die layer, and they are all the same size, 4 inches wide by 12.4 inches tall. Okay, and the reason we know that is because we actually use the rectangle tool and we use the panel, the rectangle panel, to go in there and set the size properly. Okay, so now I'm going to do the top of the panel and the bottom panel, and they are 4 by 4, if you remember, 4 by 4. So I'm going to set the width to 4 inches and the height to 4 inches, okay? That's the top panel, and I'm going to hit OK. And I get that, which is basically my top panel. And now I'm going to bring that over here, and I'm going to make sure I get that. I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit, okay? And you can see I'm not quite where I want it to be. There I am. Now I'm where I want it to be. Now I'm going to take this thing, and I'm going to walk this up, all right? I'm using the up arrow key to walk it up, and I'm going to walk it up until it just touches that line. I don't want it to go past the line, right about there, okay? Right about there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and go Edit Copy, Edit Paste in Place. And I'm going to take my, you see my, my little arrow here, and I'm going to come down to the bottom of my box. Now that piece should be selected up there. If I hold the Shift key down, and if I hold the down arrow key down, in a second, see it coming down? Since it's selected, it's coming down. And I'm just going to walk it down, keep walking it down until I get to that line at the bottom. We're almost there. Hold the Shift key and down arrow it, and I went too far. I think I want to be right there. Let's see if that's good. I might want to go up just one. Might want to go up just one. That's probably good right there. Now let's go View, Fit our board and window, and let's see what we got. There. Okay, so I mean, look, I got a lot of this thing built already. See how much of it's built already? It's really quite fast. It's not something that's going to take you forever, and you can do it by just understanding that 4 of your panels are the same size. All 4 of these panels are the same size. These are the same size, and actually, you're going to find that these 2 panels are the same size. They're just flipped. Okay. So we're going to get to that next. And then we're going to do the bottom, which gets a little bit tricky, but I'll show you how to do the bottom, and it's actually not that difficult. And one of the reasons, as I say, I chose this box is because there's some stuff going on down at the bottom here that I think is kind of important for you to understand. I think it's kind of important that you understand how this bottom works, okay? All right, so anyway, there is my body, there is my top, and there is my bottom of the box. So we got to do this stuff at the bottom. So let me do 2 more things, and that is let me do the flap here. Actually, 3 things. Let me do the flap here first. Let me do the flap here, and let me do the glue flap right there. All right. So again, you have instructions for this. So the number C, which is right there, number C goes here, which is called the top tuck flap, and that is 4 wide, 1 high. Okay, so I'm going to come over here, click, and it's going to be 4 wide, and the height is going to be 1 inch. So it's 4 wide by 1 inch, and if I hit OK, there it is. See it? And I'm going to take this and I'm going to click it, and I'm going to drag it over to here, and then I'm just going to walk it up. Again, walk it up until I just get it touching that line. Bring it up until it just touches that line right there. Now I'm going to zoom in on this because we got to do something to it. Zoom in on this guy, and I think I can actually take it up 1 more. There we go, and there we go. Now there is my tuck flap. Okay, remember 4 inches wide, 1 inch high. So this has to adjust. It has to kern. It has to actually taper in. Now there's an easy way to do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to tear out. See that little tab right there? I'm going to tear out my direct selection tool and my group selection tool. If I want to make this thing taper like this, I'm going to take the direct selection tool and I'm going to click on that corner point right there. And what happens is, if you take a look at it, 2 things. Number 1, if you can see that anchor point right there, it's white. It's white, it's open. This one is red, which means it's selected. And also, you see how it has that little circle there? That occurs when the anchor point is selected, so I can round that corner. Now, I don't want to round that corner. What I want to do is I want to taper the corner in, and I do that with my arrow keys. I got an up arrow, a down arrow, a right arrow, and a left arrow, and they're located on the lower right corner of your keyboard. I'm going to use the left arrow key, and with this one anchor point selected with the direct selection tool, I'm going to start clicking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 is enough. You see how that is nicely tapered in there using the same tool. I'm going to come over here now and I'm going to click on that anchor point. And as you can see, this is now white and open. So is that. So is that. That one is red. That's the selected anchor point. And you see the little circle there, which are indicators that that little anchor point is selected. This time I'm going to use the right arrow key, not the up, not the down, not the left, the right. And I'm going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, if I deselect this thing, if I go View, Fit Artboard and Window, you can see that, look at the way this looks. That looks correct. See it? The top looks correct. They look correct. Okay? Can you see what I'm doing? All right, now we're going to do the same thing right here. This is the glue flap. Let's do the glue flap next. So again, I'm going to come over here, get the rectangle tool. I'm going to click to bring the panel up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read my instructions, and that's E. So E is the side glue flap. Now the side glue flap is backwards. It is basically what is it? 1.25, that's an inch and a quarter. 1.25 inches wide. So this is narrow. The width is narrow, but it runs the entire length of this panel, which is 12.4. So it's 12.4. So it's 1.5 inches wide by 12.4 inches tall. And I'm going to hit OK. And there it is. Look at that. And I'm going to take that now, and I'm going to bring it over to here, place it in its proper position. Is it? Yeah, I think it's actually good. And then I'm going to walk it over, holding the Shift key down and the left arrow, and I'm going to bring it over until it just touches that line, right like that, there. And I think I'm on the line. Actually, I got to go one more time, I think. One. Yeah, I think that'll do it. Okay, there you go. So what I'm doing now is I'm building my side glue flap. If you take a look at the side glue flap, it also tapers down and tapers up. So what it means is I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to come over here with this tool, which is my direct selection tool. And I'm going to come up here and I'm going to click on that arrow point right there. That one is left open. It's white. You can see it. It's very simple if you pay attention to what you're doing. There it is white. That means it's open, not selected. That's open, not selected. This one is red. It's selected, and there's also that little red dot right there, which means essentially if I were to drag that, I see how it's giving that curve. If I drag that, I would make a curve, but that's not what I want to do. What I want to do is I want to taper that point down. So remember, I got the arrow keys in the lower right corner of my screen, and I got an up arrow and a down arrow. For this one, I'm going to use the down arrow. I'm going to click it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Once more, I'm going to make it 12. So that tapers it. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to grab this and I'm going to click on the bottom one now. I'm going to use the up arrow this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And now I have that properly tapered. Okay, so let's again take a look at what we got. You see how that looks? 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 There's your top. There's your top. There's your bottom. There's your bottom. Now we have to do these cutouts. I'll get them last. And there's your back, side, front, and side. Okay, so we've got the bulk of your box created. We have to create the two top tuck flaps, and they're 4 inches by 1. All right, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. Top. No, those are the top side flaps. I'm sorry, top side flaps. These guys are 4 by 1.5. So again, what I'm going to do is get my rectangle tool, click, and this time it's going to be 4. Okay, 4 wide, 4 by 125. By 1.5. By 1.5. By the way, 1.5 is equal to 1.5 inches. So that's what that means. This is 4 inches by 1.5 inches. And if I hit OK, that's what I get. And that's what that flap should look like. I'm going to bring that flap over to here, and I'm going to put it right in there like this. And I'm going to zoom in on this because I got to do a couple of things to it. So I'm going to come in here like this, and I want to make sure that this one goes right to the line, just like that, okay? Just like that right there. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start off by getting my direct selection tool, and I'm going to actually click on this one here and hold the Shift key down and click on this one here. And I'm going to actually move that over a tiny bit, just like that, 2 times. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the top one right here, and I'm going to go over to the left. Again, this is open, this is open, this is open, this is red, closed, and there's your circle. That's the direct selection tool. The direct selection tool chooses single anchor points. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, with the left arrow key, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? And actually, what I think I'm going to also do is click on this one, and I'm going to move this over 1, 2, and that's probably good. 1, 2 is good. Just to give myself a little clearance here, okay? I might have actually went a little too far with it. So let me click on this again, and let me get this anchor point, and let me go back 1. Let me only make it 1. There. Okay. So now watch. I'm going to go View, Fit Artboard, and Window, and there is my top tuck flap. Now what I want to do is get my regular selection tool. I want to click on that. And then I want to come over here to my Rotate tool, and I actually want to choose my Reflect tool. And I'm going to double click on the Reflect tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Preview. And what it did was it reflected it vertically. And I don't know whether you noticed it or not, but now all of a sudden that angle is facing this side. It reversed it. Now if I hit Copy, watch what happens. Okay, I just made a duplicate. I'm holding down the Shift key, and I'm going to walk this over until I reach the other side. I'm going to bring it all the way over. I'm holding the Shift key down, and I'm bringing it all the way over to the other side. All the way over to the other side. And now I'm going to walk it over to the edge, just like that. And I think I got it. Let's see. Do I? Oh, Control Z. I messed that up. Let me get away from that tool. There we go. Actually, I think I got to go one more time right there. That should do it. There. So, okay. So now I have, if you look at this, okay, I have my top tuck flap, my side tuck flaps, my top, my bottom, my back, my side, my front, my other side, and my glue flap. That's basically how you build this thing, okay? Now, the only thing that's left is for me to build my bottom pieces. Now, the bottom pieces are not terribly difficult to do, but what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to copy this. Let's go Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste in place, and I'm going to move it over to the next position right here. And I'm actually going to end up zooming in on this so that you can see this a little bit better. All right, so I'm going to bring that over to there, and I'm going to zoom in on this, and I'll see if I can make short work of this. Okay, so here we have it. We bring it in like this. Now what I want to do with this is I want to make sure that this thing lines up properly. Right to here. Right to there. There we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my direct selection tool, and I'm going to click on that anchor point right there and this anchor point right there, and I'm going to move it over 1, 2 times, maybe 3 times will do it. Yeah. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to move that over 1, 2, that was 3 times, so I'm going to go 4, 5, 6 times, okay? Just to get a little bit of clearance there. Now, here's what we have to do. If you take a look at your sketch, I'm going to go up here to your sketch for 1 second. Let me hide this. All right, let me go up to that sketch for a second. What we have to do is we have to do this. We have to carve this thing out just like this, okay? And thankfully, we have to do this on one side, and we can flip it, and we have to do it over here. So once again, we only really have to do this 1 time, okay? Because it's the exact same thing over here. So really, it seems like it's a lot of work, but in the end, it's really not that bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back over here, and I'm going to bring us up to this piece. And here's how I'm going to do this. I'm going to actually play around with the pen tool. So I'm going to bring the pen tool out, and I'm going to put the pen tool over here where I can get to it. And I'm going to move this over here. And I don't know whether I need this or not. I don't think I do. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start with some measurements. So I know that I know that the piece that I'm going to be carving this to is actually 2 inches wide by 1 1/4 inches high. So all I'm going to do is come over here, and I'm going to click, and it's going to be 2 inches wide. So I'm going to set this up. Watch what I do. 2 inches, and this is going to be 1.4 high. 1.4 high, and hit OK. There. So now I got this little shape. Now watch what I'm going to do with this shape. I'm going to take this shape, and I'm going to bring this shape over to here. Okay? And I'm going to place this shape right there. Now, the trick here is that I have to taper this thing from here to here. Okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to further taper this thing a little bit here, in just ever so slightly. And you'll see how I do this in a minute. So it's actually 2.16. So I made a mistake. Let me get this thing. Let me ditch that. And we'll try it one more time. So it's actually going to be 2.1. What is it? 2.16 by 1.4. Yes. Hit OK. There. And now I'm going to move that over here. Okay. So that's what we're going to do. All right. Now I'm going to bring that in, and I'm going to set it right there. Now here's what I'm going to do. I did have a guide layer. So let me go back to the layers, and let me open up the guide layer. And let me select the guide layer. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go up to my ruler, and I'm going to drag a guide out, and I'm going to make sure I'm on that guide layer, which is right there on the guide layer. And I'm going to go to the View menu and go to Guides and Show Guides. There we go. Okay, so now I got my guides. And these guides here, I don't think I need anymore. They're old guides. I think I can get rid of them. Let me go to View Guides and unlock them. Yeah, let me get rid of these. I don't need them. Delete them. There we go. So I need that guide. And then what I need is, and I think that's it for now. I think I just need that one guide. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. Now I'm going to lock the guide layer. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to create an anchor point. I need to create an anchor point right here. So if you look at my pen tools, I have the pen tool, I have the add anchor point tool, I have the delete anchor point tool, and I have the convert anchor point tool. I'm going to click on the add anchor point tool. I'm going to come right over to where my guide is, and I'm going to place an anchor point right there. I'm going to get it on that line. There we go. See how I placed an anchor point on that line right there? Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by taking the direct selection tool, and I'm going to click on this, hold the shift key down, and click on this. And then I'm going to use my left arrow key, and I'm going to start walking those two lines over. See what I'm doing? I'm walking those two lines over together. Okay? You see what it's doing? It's keeping this straight, but it's making this angle taper, which is exactly the look that I'm going for. So I just keep walking it over. Okay, I got the where's my direct selection tool? Did I close it? Where's my direct selection tool? There, I got my direct selection tool selected. Okay, and I got that anchor point. You can see the little red thing, that anchor point. And what I'm doing is I'm walking it over with the left arrow key. And I'm just going to keep walking it over until I reach that line right there. I'm almost there. Keep going, keep going, keep going. And that is how you do it. Now I'm going to take that shape, which I don't need anymore, and I'm going to delete it. Okay, so now I got that shape almost done. But there is, if you take a look, let me go back up to my diagram so that you can see what's going on here. Go back to my diagram. All right, let me go up to here. You'll see that there's an additional little taper here. This is 2.16 to that point, but this is 2 inches to that point. So I have to create another shape there so that I can make that 2 inches instead of 2.16. I hope you're understanding what I'm doing. So I go back over here, okay, and I'm going to come down to here, and let me zoom it over so you can see this, and I'm going to get my layers, Okay, I'm going to make sure that I'm on my die layer, which I am. Okay, and I'm going to take the rectangle tool, click again, and now this one is going to be 1.4, but this is instead of 2.16, this is going to be 2, and hit OK. Okay, now watch. I take this and I drag this over to here, drag it right over to there. Now, can you see that little point right there, is sticking out too far? So what I want to do is this. I want to start off by taking this point right here, click on it, and what I want to do is I want to click on this, and I want to slowly move it over, keep moving it over until it gets right there. Okay? What's going on with this now? There we go. I don't know why that was there. That's bizarre. Hold on, let me see. Hold on, let's go edit, undo, clear. Let's go edit, undo, move. Something went wrong. Edit, undo, move. Undo, move. What happened here? Hold on. All right, so what's going on here? There we go. Okay, for some strange reason, I got another line in there, which I didn't want. But now I'm going to take this thing and move it over, just like that. There we go. So that's over there. And that now, if I take this away, it'd be nice if I got the right tool, the regular selection tool. Take this out of the way. This should be one piece. It is. Okay, so that's correct. So there, that's how I create that shape. That's how I create that shape. I'm going to go back up here and show you what that looks like so that you can see it. It's over here. There it is. That's the shape. That's what it's supposed to look like. It's supposed to go like that and then go down on an angle like that, and it's going to end up being 2 inches across the bottom, 2.16 to here, okay, which is what it is. So now I'm going to come back over to here, and I'm going to go back to this position, and I'm going to move these out of the way, select this, and I'm going to come over to my reflect tool, bring my reflect tool out, and oops, I got an extra line here which I don't need. Let me copy it. There we go. And now what I'm going to do is hold the shift key down. I'll get rid of that one little line. There's one little line segment that's got to go bye-bye. And I'm just going to walk this thing over because it's the exact same thing reflected on this other side. So I'll just walk this thing over until I reach that edge. I'm almost there. Right there. Okay. There. There we have it. Now let's take a look and see. There. See? And there's that extra line there. Delete it. There we go. Okay. So now the only thing that's left is the centerpiece. All right? The one in the middle. Now to do that, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to select this again. I'm going to go edit copy, edit paste in place, and then I'm going to walk it over, walk her over. Okay, keep it going. And what I need to do with this is bring it over to here, bring it over to here, right like that. There we go. Okay, now here's the deal. The deal is that I have to do two things to finish this. Let me bring it up and show you. One of them is easy. The other one's a little bit more tricky. I have to cut this hole, and I have to create that shape at the bottom. This is the easy one, so why don't we do that first? So let me go back over here. Okay, let me go back over here, and let me bring this up, and let me bring it over. There we go. And let me move these out of the way. All right, so this one right here is what I'm going to do. And this one is going to be, let me get my rectangle tool, click to get my panel. The width on this is going to be 1.5 inch and a half. So it's going to be 1.5, and it's going to be by 1. And hit OK. And there it is. See that little shape there? Now I'm going to come over here, And I'm going to bring this over here. And I'm going to move it to the center. Click on this. Now I need a guide. So let's go to the guide layer and unlock the guide layer and choose the guide layer. And let me bring a guide out and place the guide right in the center of that. There's that little center point. There's my guide right in the center. Now this thing, I'm going to click on it, and I want to make sure that that is sitting in the center of my guide, right like that. And let's go down just one time. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to select both of these, this shape here, making sure that this little shape is slightly outside. I am going to go to my Pathfinder panel again, right here, Pathfinder panel. Now before I used Unite, now I'm going to use minus front. Minus front is going to cut that little piece out of there. So if I click on that, you see what it did? It cut that little piece out of there. And now, if we take a look at our design, go back to our design and look at our design, see, I got the hole there, I got that piece shaped right, I got that piece shaped right, and this is what I've got left to do, all right? So we're going to concentrate on doing that last piece, and then we'll be done with this. This is really not that difficult if you just take your time. All right, so here's the deal. What we're going to do is I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to bring another guide out because I got to locate the center of that panel. So there's my guide. I brought my guide out. Now this guide is probably on the wrong layer. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to move that down to the guide layer. There. And I'm going to lock that layer. Okay? So now that guide is there. All right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the instructions that go here. Go back to this for a second. All right? I know this is like jumping back and forth. I want to also get on my die layer again. And I'm going to come up here, and that's what I'm going for right there. So that is 1.75 inches wide by 1 1/4 high. Okay? Really simple. 1.75 by 1.4. And it's going to be in the center. All right? That's why I put the guide there. So let's go back, and let me come up here so I can get close to this. Once again, come over here, grab my rectangle tool, click, and the size of this, the width of this, will be 1.75. And then the height is going to be 1.4. 1.4. So the width is 1.75 inches, height is 1.4 inches. Now again, just to remind you, I took my wine box specifications or my box specifications, and I put it on 8.5 by 11, 8.5 by 11 page. I sized it as big as I could make it. I saved it as a PDF. I took it and printed it out, so I have it sitting right next to me. It's a lot easier for me to do this, but I have to remind you how to do it. I have to show you how to do it, so that's why I'm jumping back and forth to do this, so that you're going to be comfortable doing it. So the width is 1.75, the height is 1.4. I hit OK. There's my shape. My shape actually falls right on my guideline. Really cool. So now all I just got to do is walk it up. Let me just walk this thing up. Walk it up until I just about touch that line right there. Should do it. I'm going to actually, I think that's good. So now I'm going to come over here. I'm going to deselect this thing. Oh, you know what? I got to actually, let's go edit, undo, move. There we go. And now let me redo the move. And let me go object, arrange, bring to front. Or actually, let's go edit, cut. And let's go edit, paste in front. Edit, paste in front. There we go. Oh, what's going on here? Is it on another layer? I bet it is. Let me see. It's on the, no, it's on the die layer. Let's go edit, undo, paste in front. Edit, undo, cut. Wait a minute. Now what's going on with this thing? Control Z. What's going on with this thing? What is happening with this? Oh, I see. There's no stroke on it. Somehow or other, I lost my stroke. I don't know why. There we go. Okay, so there's my stroke on it. Don't know why that happened. There we go. Now let me move it back up. Lost my stroke. Okay, so we get it here. There we go. We're in good shape. Now, now what I'm going to do is, with this thing selected, I'm going to go back to my Add Anchor Point tool. And I'm going to very carefully come over here, and I'm going to click to place an anchor point right there. And I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to very carefully click to place an anchor point right there. And it looks to me like that anchor point might be a touch low, so I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to up arrow it one time. Okay, now I want to taper these to that point right there. To do that, I'm going to click on that anchor point, hold the Shift key down, and click on that anchor point. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use in my arrow keys in the lower left hand or lower right hand corner of my keyboard, I'm going to use the right arrow key, and I'm going to walk that over. Walk it over. See how I'm walking it over? Just keep going. Keep going until it reaches that line. Keep going. There's no rush. Just do it. There you go. And now it's there. Now I'm going to come over here with my direct selection tool, and I'm going to click on that anchor point, hold the Shift key down, and click on that anchor point. So I got, this one I didn't get. So let me hold the Shift key down and let me get it. Okay. Oh, I'm not getting it. What's wrong with this thing? Did I get it? I guess I did. Now I'm going to use the left arrow key, and I'm going to left arrow key this over. There we go. I did get it. It just didn't look like I got it. So I'm going to bring this thing over. Keep going. Keep going. And there you have it. Look at that. Now I can come in here and I can take that piece and delete it. And now if I go to the View menu, and let's go Fit Artboard and Window, I'm going to go to my guide layer, and I'm going to hide my guides. And I got this guide. I guess this guide here somehow or other. Let's go to the View menu. Let's go to Guides. And where is that guide there? Let's go View Guides, Clear Guides. No, what's going on here? Where's that guide? Where is it? It's on the, what layer is that on? Got to be on one of these. There it is on the fold layer. Okay, so let me unlock this and let's see if I can get rid of that. Delete that. There we go. Okay. So that was confusing. All right, so anyway, now I have my die. There's my die, and it's, look. Okay? So if you take a look at this, just take a look at this for one moment, you're going to see that we now have all of our panels built. Okay? And that's what the final piece of art should look like, and it really looks very close to what this is. So here's what the problem is. The problem is that right now these are all separate pieces. See if I, oops, let me get the right tool. This tool's got to go now. I'm done with it. This tool I'm done with. Pathfinder, I think, no, I need the Pathfinder. So I'm going to put the Pathfinder over here. Let me get the regular selection tool. This selection tool, see here? These are all Control Z. These are all different pieces. Look, see, Control Z. I'm just moving them so that you could see. So what I need to do is I need to turn this, all of this, I need to turn it into one outline. I don't need any of the stuff that's inside here. I need one solid outline. There's a very easy way to do this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to marquee select the whole thing, just like that. So everything is selected, marquee selected, just like that. So everything is selected. I'm going to come over to my Pathfinder panel, okay? Pathfinder panel. And using the shape modes, I'm going to click on Unite. And actually, I got a little bit of a problem. Let's go Edit Undo. Okay, I got a bit of a problem. So this one here, and let me shift select this one here, and let me just down arrow that one time. And let's see if that now works. These are a little bit higher than they should be. So I'm going to select this whole thing again, and now I'm going to hit Pathfinder. There we go. Okay, so you see what we end up with? We end up with one piece. That there is our die line. That is our die line. So that is step number 1 to create our die line. Okay? Now, what I want to do is I want to create the bleed. So let me go in and let me start off by selecting this, okay? And I'm going to go Edit, Copy, all right? Or better yet, I don't even need to copy this at this point. I think no, I can, yeah. The die line, okay, so I'm going to hide the die line. I'm going to go to the bleed layer now, all right? I'm going to lock the die line layer, and yeah, let me lock it and hide it. And now I'm going to go to the bleed layer, select it, and I'm going to go Edit, Paste in Place. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change, first of all, the color of this. I'm going to make it red. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to make it red and hit OK. And now watch when I deselect this. It's red. Okay? So here's what I'm going to do with this thing. I'm going to go to the Object menu. Here's the die line is, let me just explain this to you. The die line right now, if you took a look at the die line falls inside of the bleed. The bleed is 1/8 of an inch outside the die line. So the bleed has to be 1/8 of an inch further away from that die line. So I want to make sure I'm on the bleed line. I select the bleed object. I'm going to go to the Object menu. I'm going to go to Path, and I'm going to go to Offset Path. And what I'm going to do is, in the offset path, in the inches, I'm going to offset it by 0.125. 0.125. 0.125 equals 1/8 of an inch. Now watch when I hit Preview. Can you see that it jumped out? Now watch when I hit OK. I'm going to deselect it. And you can see, look at my die line. There's my die line. And there is my bleed line. Actually, I end up with 2 bleed lines. So what I got to do is I got to get rid of the inside bleed line because that's no good. I don't need that right now. Delete that. There's my die line. Okay, so what I got is I got my bleed line. There's my die line. There's my bleed line. Okay, so those 2 are done. My bleed line is here and my die line is there. And I did that by simply taking my die line, and I'll do it again so that you could actually see me do this. Okay, I'm going to select my bleed line. I have to unlock it, or my die line. My die line, I'm going to select it, and I'm going to go to the Object menu, and I'm going to go to Path, and I'm going to go to Offset Path, and it's going to be by 0.125 inches. I'm going to hit OK, and there it is. I'm going to move that up to my bleed, and I'm going to change it from black to red. Hit OK. And now when I deselect it, I have my die. There it is. And I have my bleed. Okay? So there you go. Now, the last thing that I need to do to make this box complete is I need to put in the folds, okay? So the folds are the last thing that I need to do with this. And they're really not too hard to do. I don't know, did they tell you, what did they give you instructions on the folds? They really don't, do they? No, they don't. I'm surprised. All right, so anyway, how we do the folds is this. It's really not hard. I'm going to go to the fold layer. I'm going to lock my die layer. I'm going to lock my bleed layer. And by the way, just so that you know, I'm going to go to the fold layer and I'm going to unlock the fold layer. So the important thing that you need to know is that your die line should be black. Your bleed line should be red. And what you want to do for your fold lines, you want to basically make that like gray for now. We could change the color later, but you want to make it gray for now. So I'm going to choose gray. All right, and now I got gray, and this is going to be my fold line. For this, I'm going to zoom in on it so I can see a little bit better what I'm doing, because I have to locate I got to locate these junctures where the thing folds. And you might want to actually go into your guides, okay? And you might actually want to show your guides, and you might actually want to clear these because we're done with those 2. Clear them. And what you might want to do is you might want to drag out a few guides. Like, for instance, you might want to drag a guide there because that's one guide. You might want to drag a guide here because that's a guide. See? This is going to be a fold. This is going to be a fold. This is going to be a fold right here. See? So what I'm doing is I'm bringing out some guides which represent where my folds are going to be. And I'm going to come down, and I know I have fold here. So I'm going to come down, and I'm going to bring a fold or a guide here to go to that fold. Okay, so you see what I'm doing? And then I'm going to come over here, and I happen to know that, let me go up, let me go up, let me go up, let me go up. I'll come up to the top here. Yeah, so right there, there's going to be a guide because there's going to be a fold there. And there we go. And there's going to be a fold here. I don't know why this is here. I must have placed that wrong. That goes there, I believe. Yep, it does. And then this one here goes here, like that. And now let's go view, fit artboard and window. And let's see what we got. Yep, that's it. I don't think I need a guide. No, I don't need this one. So that one can go. Okay, so my guides, there's a guide, 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 there's your folds. Okay, and if you look at this, it does make a whole lot of sense because that would be the fold for that tab. That would also be the fold for that tab. All of these panels down here fold along that line. The front, or the side panel and the front panel would fold along that line. And same with this. The side and the front would fold there, the back and the side would fold there, and the glue flap would fold right there. Okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to our layers. We're going to lock the guides for now. Make sure we're on the fold layer. And what I'm going to do is, I think I'll probably zoom in on this again so that we can see what's going on. I'm going to use the line segment tool, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the window menu and I'm going to open up the stroke panel. There it is, right there, the stroke panel. And I'm going to bring the stroke panel over here where I can see it. I'm going to set this width up to be 1 point, okay? Now what I want to do is I have it set to gray. And what I want to do is I want to choose dashed line. And what I think I want to do with this is I think I want to try, let's try 6 points and let's try 6-point gap. I don't know whether this is what I'm going to use in the end, but I'm going to start off with this. Hold down the shift key and I'm going to drag a line right from point A to point B, which is right there. And you know what? I think that's perfect. There, look. There it is. There it is. Okay? That is your fold. All right? Now, what I'm going to do is the same thing. I'm going to get my line segment tool. I'm going to come over here. I've got it set to 1 point gray, 6 by 6. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to hold down the shift key, and I'm going to drag it all the way over to here. Just to there. Now these things are not going to be printing. These are just so that you can visualize how this box is working. I'm then going to come over here. Once again, I'm going to find my marks, hold the shift key down, and I'm just going to drag it right over to there. Okay? And now I'm going to go down. I'm going to go down, and I'm going to come to this point right there, that juncture right there. I'm going to hold the shift key down and I'm going to drag it right across. You know what? I can probably go right across. So the problem is I can't see where I'm going. So I'm going to have a little bit of problem with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my direct selection tool and I'm going to click right there. And then I'm just going to use the right arrow and I'm just going to arrow that line right over until I reach my point. And now if I get my regular selection tool and deselect it, there you go. There's one left. Really, the ones down the bottom, I don't have to have anything on them. So there's one left, and it's right here. Let me bring it over a little bit, and let me bring this up a little bit. And it's this guy right here. Let me go view, zoom out. All right, zoom out. Okay, so this is the one I got to do the glue flap right there. So once again, line tool, come over here, get myself situated on my guides, hold the shift key down, and just run it down until I hit those guides just like that right there. And now let's go up and let's go view, fit artboard and window. Let's go to my layers and let's hide the guides. And let's deselect everything and let's see what we got. There you go. That right there. Oh, you know what? Aha! I forgot one thing. I have guides to put here. So let me do this. I'm going to come over here, make sure I'm on my fold layer. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click right there, hold the shift key down, and I'm going to drag down to that point right there. Good. Now watch. There it is. Okay? I'm going to click on this. I'm going to go edit copy, edit paste in place, and then I'm going to hold the shift key down and I'm going to right arrow it over until I move it to the next position, which is right here. A little bit further over, right there is good. Okay, and then if I want to really be slick about this, I can click on this one, hold the shift key down and click on this one, go edit. No, I don't think I need that. I only need one actually. Yeah, no, I don't need to do that. Let's just go edit copy again. So I don't have to go to distance, edit paste in place, and now hold the shift key down, and I'm just going to carefully walk that thing over until I reach my other position. And I'm right there. And there we go. I now have my folds. Watch this. See? There they are. There are my folds. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay? And then my bleed. Okay, so let's bring the folds back. There's my bleed. Okay? Those are my three elements, bleed, and then I have my die, which is right there. So those are the three elements that you have, three important elements: bleeds, trim, die line, folds. Trim, die. I'm going to actually come in here and I'm going to modify the name on this so that you don't have any confusion. It's going to be trim, trim. Oop, that didn't work out. Let's try TRIM/DIELINE, die line, trim, die line. Hit OK. There we go. And then this is our folds. All right, folds, and hit OK. And then our bleed. Okay, let's just change that. B. Yeah, bleed. Okay. Now, again, these are important elements, and the reason they're important is because the trim line right here, the trim or the die line, is what is actually used as the cookie cutter to cut the piece out of the background. The bleed is what you use to bleed your color to for any element that's going to go edge to edge from your print. So if you have a background color, which is basically going to go from, edge to edge all the way off, you need to bleed it, and you need to take it to that bleed line. The folds are really only important for the printer, because the printer has to have a visualization of where you're going to fold the cardstock box up to assemble the box. So that is how you make this thing. It's really not that terribly difficult, but there it is. That's how you do it. Now, I'm going to end with this tonight. This is enough for one night. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the assignment for week 2. Let's go to the assignment for week 2 because I want to see what else there is in store for us. So for this 2-part assignment, you're going to lay out the groundwork for your product package. That's essentially what we just did. Created by die line, designed by creating a die line that meets printing standards for package creation using Adobe Illustrator, and create a rough layout using the strongest concept identified from your client feedback. This will be the same product you did for your mood board. So I did one design for my mood board, and I did my layout for a completely different product. So what I'm going to be doing tomorrow night is I'm not going to be working on my hot sauce anymore. I'm going to be working on a wine box from this point forward. Okay, but I just wanted to show you the mood board because for one as opposed to the other, so that we've worked on. You can see I've worked on two different things because I've actually done all three of these. Same product you did for the mood board. So you're going to choose your product. Let's go down, and then. So part one is the die line. Make the artboard large enough to support the die line. I did that. Create a new layer and name it die line. I did that. Create another layer, name it artwork. Now I actually went a little bit further with this, okay? If you look at mine, I went in and I created a fold layer. I created a bleed layer. I actually created a graphics layer, which we haven't used yet. We'll use that tomorrow night. A background layer, which we haven't used yet, but we'll use that tomorrow night. The trim die layer we did use. The box layer was just a layer that I left the original box that I did on, so it was kind of a visualization. That's all it was, really. We didn't really use it. The guide layer we used because we actually applied some guides through the process. We gridded this out a little bit so that we knew where we were going to be putting things. And then, of course, there's a sample layer, and that's what's on the sample layer, that little sample right there. I didn't use it much other than just as a quick reference for you so that you could kind of see what I was doing. My recommendation is, again, I'll say this, take that thing, put it on an 8.5 by 11 and scale it as big as you can put it on an 8.5 by 11, save it as a PDF and take it and print it so that you could sit it next to you on your table. That's what I did. It works really easy that way, so that's what I would do with that. And again, let's go back to the assignment. So position the artwork layer beneath the die line layer. When creating your die line, use the industry standard visuals. Cut lines are solid, no fill. Dash lines indicate folds. We did that. A bleed line is also required. We did that, and we did it in red. Okay, so the cut lines are solid. We did them in black. Dash lines indicate folds. We did them in gray. And then, of course, the bleed, we did it in red. All those are industry standards. Generally speaking, the bleed line will appear red. That's what the printer wants to see. If you show a dash line, they should either be in, depending upon the circumstances, a light gray or a light blue. That's generally what you use for a dash line. At this point, we have it as a light gray line. We may change that to a lighter gray when we actually get into mocking up our artwork for this. And then, of course, for the die line, generally that's just black, okay? The die line is a closed vector path. Now, you saw how I did that. I actually created pieces, and I slightly overlapped all the pieces, very slightly overlapping all the pieces so that when I got done, I could marquee select the whole thing and I could use the Pathfinder panel to combine them into one solid outline. That's what it says. The die line is a closed vector path which is equal to an outline. That's what it is. Cut lines should be 0.5 stroke weight. Fold line should be 0.5 stroke weight with a dash of 4 point. Oh, so here you see it's saying a 4 point with a 2 point gap. I did 6 by 6. Okay, so basically we're just going to modify that to be 4 point by 2. Let me go in and let me see what that would look like. Let's go back into here and let me click on this. Hold down the shift key and hold down the shift key. Let's see if it even matters. I'm going to click on that. Click all these guys. Click on that. Come on, you. Okay. Now let's go to my window. Stroke. Where did the stroke go? There we go. So what did they say? It was, what was it again? It was 4 by 2. Okay. So let's see what happens. Let's change this to 4. Okay. By 2. Let's see what happens. What the hell, right? We've got time. 2. And now we've made that adjustment. Let's see what we get. I mean, I can tell you right now it's different, but you can't tell. You know, it's a subtle thing. You can't tell. But at any rate, now if I click on this, there's your number, 4 by 2. So it's correct, okay? That's all you have to do that. The bleed area is 0.125 beyond the trim edge, which is exactly what we did, right? Bleed lines do not require crop marks. We didn't put any crop marks in it. We just did our bleed lines. 0.125 of an inch beyond the trim edge. Showed you just how to do that. Once you completed the die line, lock the die layer, prevent accidental changes to the dotted line. Now, part 2, which is tomorrow night, we're going to be working on a rough layout. I'm going to go over that tomorrow night, and we will be working on that tomorrow night, okay? So I'm going to end here, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to stop the recording, end here for tonight. We will pick up at this point tomorrow night.